Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for appearing again. Today, we've discussed at length, I think it was with you, Ms Savage, about smart meters.
Yes.
You've regularly touted that they're a good thing, and you've spoken about Australian energy regulators need to have them rolled out as widely as possible, as quickly as possible.
Oh, sorry, that's not us, Senator. That would be the Australian Energy Market Commission who's talked about that.
Okay. What's actually happening is that smart meters are being used to gouge customers. Many companies are not getting informed consent from consumers before changing customers over to incredibly punitive plans. Then those smart meters are being used to pinpoint the exact time someone is using their maximum amount of power, and the companies are charging the customer as if they're doing that the entire period. So what we've heard of is examples. For example, a family might be away on holiday for a couple of weeks. They come back near the end of the month and they throw everything in the dryer, the washing machine, and their demand goes way up. And they're charged at that rate for the whole month. That's clearly gouging them. Are there no protections for the consumer who wants to have their smart meter removed? And what are you doing to crack down on those predatory power companies?
So thank you for the question, Senator. I think there's just a distinction I'd like to make between a network tariff and a retail tariff. So the electricity rules require network tariffs to become increasingly cost reflective, but a retailer's job is to manage the risk on behalf of customers. So as you can imagine, the price of power in the wholesale market fluctuates every day between minus $1,000 and $17,000.
It does these days, yes.
It always has, actually. Well, the cap's been different, but yeah, it's always been highly volatile in the NEM. And a retailer's job is to package up a product for a customer that manages that risk for them. Networks have a set of cost-reflective tariffs that they show to retailers as well, because the way in which the cost of a network is really about the maximum use of the network. So if all of us in this room decided to turn everything on at exactly the same time, the network has to be built big enough to accommodate that. I'm sure you appreciate that. And so what the network is doing is giving to the retailer a signal about when they've got more or less capacity available in their network. And then retailers package up that network signal and that wholesale signal and give it to a retailer. So the Australian Energy Market Commission has recognised that with the rollout of smart meters, more and more customers are being put onto tariffs that they may not understand, the sort of tariff you just described. And so they've actually got a draft report out at the moment, which is suggesting that there should be a longer period of time for customers to have, so sort of 3 years, I think is what they've proposed. And Mr Duggan might want to talk a little bit more about this, given it's not my agency. But they've given customers sort of a 3-year window where retailers can't put them onto a time of use tariff. So even if they get a smart meter, they couldn't go automatically onto one of those time of use tariffs. But did you want to add to that?
What, for 3 years?
Yeah, just to add to that, so two additional things, which is that they must also be given, it must be an opt-in. So under what's being proposed by the AEMC, you must opt in to a time of use tariff, not be forced on a time of use tariff. And the other element to it is if you choose not to opt in, then you would continue to just face the flat tariff that you would have before. So building in additional consumer protections.
For the 3 years.
For the 3 years.
Yeah.
So what protections are available in the national electricity rules for consumers against power companies that are using the smart meters you're encouraging to be installed to gouge people?
So this rule change that Simon's just referred to and I've referred to will put that protection in place.
Is that what it's designed to do?
Yes.
Is that why you bring it in? Yep. Okay. What tangible benefit are consumers supposedly getting out of smart meters?
So it's actually a really great question. I'm going to give you a bit of a techie answer, but in Victoria, where we've had smart meters for quite some time, when we look at the rate of asset utilisation in the distribution system in Victoria and compare it to jurisdictions that don't have smart meters, there's actually much higher utilisation in Victoria. So we see utilisation rates up to nearly 80%, sometimes, high 70s, I should say, whereas the average utilisation rate across the national electricity market is more like 43%. And part of that's because the smart...
How do you measure utilisation?
So how much network is built to meet peak demand versus how much is used, is latent for the rest of the day.
So the idea is to try and decrease the amount of peak network?
It's to try and ensure that we're moving... Basically, we've got loads filling up the holes in the day, so that we're not building too much network, that's right. And so what you see in Victoria is the level of utilisation is much greater, so the overall network cost is much smaller. So customers are really benefiting from the reduced need to invest in networks because of improved utilisation. So that's one benefit. We
So
also
is
see...
that because, excuse me, Ms Savage, is that because the consumer knows when to utilise the network?
That's part of it, and it can also be the visibility that the network has over some of these assets as well. So I know you and I have talked before about some of the different types of tariffs that exist in Queensland, like controlled load tariffs, for et cetera, particularly with pool pumps and things like that. So being able to move these types of discretionary loads, not heating and cooling or dishwashers or lights, but some of those movable loads through the day can actually avoid investment in the network, which is a great thing for consumers in terms of keeping bills down.
So last question, Chair. Related to smart meters, I raised at a previous session the issue of air conditioners being throttled by power companies. You seemed unaware of that issue when I raised it. Have you had time to review the article I supplied confirming that actually did happen at an alarming frequency? I think it was 6 times.
So I think, Senator Roberts, that was a question about the Peak Smart device, and you gave it to us on notice, and we've responded on notice. Is that correct, Stephen? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.